easy. This track is called Sound Boy Killer. Come on. Killer. Let me see you bounce on your feet. From a clash of sound boy, I figure run away. How will the people want? Yes, so now come there. We run me dance from Sunday to Sunday.
No boy can't kill my sound.
Sound boy killer.
When we bust it up, it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, winner.
Sound boy killer.
When we bust it up, it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, winner.
Sound boy killer.
When we bust it up, it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, winner.
Sound boy killer.
My sound and the baddest sound. No boy can kill my sound.
Welcome back to the channel Flowey's Adventure, and I'm your boy Flowey. Today we're in the beautiful city of Cape Town, voted #1 city in the world according to Time Out magazine. And of course, you know that everywhere you go in the world, you can find a Jamaican. And I've met up with this virgin, Marlon. So Marlon now resides here from Jamaica, but I'm gonna let him tell us his story. So welcome to the channel, Marlon. Blessings.
Oh, well, brother. You're good, man. Pleasure, you know.
Yeah, man.
I'm Marlon,
Mhm.
originally from Kingston, Jamaica, you know what I mean?
Right.
Poor Belgian, no big fan, you know what I mean? And I came to South Africa in 2011. Initially for 6 months, that was the plan.
Yeah.
But when I got here, I'm like, yo, I like the vibe there.
Right.
So I said, I got build it up.
Right.
And then that has turned to almost 14 years now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So before you get deep down into the story, let's take it back to Jamaica and the formative years per se. Tell us about school. What was school like? Name some of the schools.
School, well, all the schools I went to was in the same vicinity.
Right.
Transfiguration Basic School, right, Red Hills Road, right by Crash, right side. And then from there, down the road, St. Richard's Primary.
School. Good school, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Very well.
And then from St. Richard's Primary to Meadow. So
Meadow,
basically in
go back
the
up the
same
road,
area. Yeah, exactly.
So you
Just
never
one
really leave
circle.
out of your Kingston.
Exactly.
20.
You know what I
Is
mean?
that Kingston 20?
Kingston 20,
20,
Barn
right,
and Road.
right,
You know.
right. Okay. All right. So, what was school like? You like school? You did like school?
Not really.
Really?
Not really. You know what? School was fun
Fun, right.
for the outside of the academic part.
Right.
You understand? Because I was a troublemaker.
Okay, you still
A
go.
clown, class clown,
clown.
troublemaker, all of them things there, you know what I mean? And used to play sport as well.
Okay.
So I used to play cricket.
Right. So the
Yeah.
man was a cricketer.
Yeah, I was the captain of Meadowbrook.
So you play sunlight.
Sunlight, yeah. So cold sunlight the whole world.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you used to give the teacher trouble, or are you fellow classmates?
Boy, I mean, everybody used to get
Everybody used to get
But
some of it.
the classmates them are more frank.
Oh, okay.
But the teacher then sometimes them talk to you a certain way. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was a horrible child.
Right. All right. So you left school,
Mm.
and then what after school? So you must say, well, I'm gonna leave school now, and I'm gonna have to do something with my life. So what was that?
Yeah, you know, when I left high school, I went to the US.
Right.
My dad, most of my family is here. So I
Right.
went there, trying to see if I could make a life there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just living there, and then I didn't like it.
Okay.
I didn't like it, and within a few months, I called my mom and said, "Yo, listen, I come back, and I might place."
So tell me something now. You didn't like life in the US, and so many Jamaicans line up at the embassy on a daily basis from Monday to Friday, want to go to the US
Yeah,
because there's
yeah.
a tree, money growing tree right there. So why didn't you like it? You didn't find any tree with money
No,
or
for me, I not even because people move for different reasons, right?
True.
A lot of Jamaicans go to either England, Canada, and America
Right.
because of financial benefits. You understand? For me, more than that.
Right.
More lifestyle,
Mhm.
and for me, I'd rather lifestyle over all of that. You know what I mean? Where I can live comfortably. We have, the ocean, the sea, nature, all of them things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you came back to Jamaica from the US,
Mm.
and mom must be saying, boy, Marlon, you need to decide what you're gonna do with your life, right?
No, the thing is, when I was in Jamaica, we used to so JOP, which is Jaguar Production, which is I know it.
Right.
So the whole of we grew up together. The whole of we did music. JOP was one group. So it was me, Idonia, Size 10, who passed recently,
Right.
and Daddy Dunks, you know what I mean, Prowl, all of us was one movement,
Right.
you know what I mean, and the plan was to do music.
Right.
As in, so when I moved back to Jamaica, the focus was gonna be on music, and then my aunt, she had a travel agent,
Right.
and she said, "Why go you love travel?
Right.
Come work for me." And I
Right.
said, "For real?" She said, "Yeah, man, you can get free tickets." And I said, "Really?"
That's nice.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start work at travel agent, you know what I mean? And up until about 2010, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
All right. So you basically started to work at a travel agent,
yeah.
and then you started to do travel. And so where did you travel to?
I really go. I mean, a lot of times it was mostly the US. Like sometimes because of the benefits,
Right.
I would leave Jamaica Friday evening after work and come back Monday morning to Miami. Just you know what I mean, like on a regular basis, like almost every weekend. You know, and then went to Cuba. You know what I mean, Cayman. That's most of the Caribbean and America. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Fine. So after that, at what stage did you realize that, well, boy, I'm gonna leave this side of the Atlantic for good and venture, all right, to Africa?
Well, funnily, how I got into modeling,
Right.
right? Seeing International and though I beat up them, they used to use the travel agent that I worked at. So I used to book the tickets.
It's for them.
So yeah, so they always came in and say, "Yo, you should model and this and that," and I'm saying, "No, my music, my thing, they really this and that." And then I don't know if you know the show Model Icon.
No.
They started it, yeah, Model Icon. Basically, they wanted well, when Dwight approached me, say he wanted a character
Right.
on the show. You understand? Because normally it's models doing different tasks.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he said, "Yeah, man, we want you to come on this and that." I was like, "All right, cool." You know what I mean? Okay. So went, then did it and liked it. And I said, "Yo, it's cool." You know what I mean? And then just continue.
Okay, so you start that time now you became signed with Scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. So and then you were booked to, I'm sure, some shows overseas.
Yeah, New York,
New
New
York.
York.
So you signed with an agent in
But,
New
but
York.
at the same time, even though I was modeling, I never really took it that serious.
Seriously.
You know what I mean? Because still I was doing recordings.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Musically and doing the modeling thing as well. You know what I mean? But the love was really in the studio.
In the studio.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. So you're signed in New York, and so what happened after New York? Because obviously, you would have come to South Africa. So did you come to South Africa for the modeling or for the music or both?
No, all right. So there was a few girls that I used to date, models as well. You know what I mean? But from different parts. And they always told me about South Africa. And man, you should go to South Africa. It's cool, you know what I mean? Whatever, the market is there. And I'm saying, all right, cool. But once I heard Africa, I was sold because growing up, I was intrigued about Africa. You know what I mean? Knowing the history and where we came from and all that.
Yeah.
And, even when I was at Jamaica at the travel agent, I used to look at the map of Africa
Right.
and I could just look at the map without the names of the country and name the country. That's how I studied Africa. So the moment I got the opportunity to do a fashion show here, it was Africa Fashion. Yeah, it was Africa Fashion Week. Mercedes-Benz Africa Fashion Week. Once I got that invite, I'm like, let's go.
All right, so I'm gonna test you then, since you say you could just look at the map of Africa, because both of us have traveled extensively. Yeah, man, both of us have traveled extensively.
Yeah.
So name me one or two countries that's to the very north of Africa then. One or two countries.
North, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt.
Egypt. Good. All right. And of course, I can't ask you about the South because they're at the South.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I've been to all of the South.
What about
Southern
what
Africa.
about to the east of Africa now?
East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Somalia, Eritrea, Djibouti. Yeah.
Uganda.
Uganda, yeah, you can say Uganda, but it's more, yeah. Uganda, I call it now, Rwanda,
Right.
Burundi.
And what about to the west now?
To the west, yeah,
Yes.
Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia.
Alright, stop, boy. You probably know it even more than the 14, soon to be 15 parishes of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, man. So you really know the map.
Soon to be 15?
Yeah, man. Portmore will soon become a parish.
Yeah.
Soon, right? Yeah. So by the time you go back to Jamaica, probably we have a 15 parish. Alright, yeah, man. So alright, so you came to. So you're telling us now about how you left New York, and you always had this love for Africa, and take us now to the journey from New York or from Jamaica to New York to Africa.
Yeah, I mean, so when I got the connection
Right.
to say, yo, Africa Fashion Week.
Right.
Actually, I wasn't in New York at the time. I was in Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, I was in Atlanta at the time. I had a girlfriend there, so I was there chilling. And then one of my boys, Kibwe.
Yeah, man.
Kibwe,
So
Kibwe
those
have
of
all
us
the connection.
big up Kibwe Magen because Kibwe Magen is the plug right here.
Kibwe
right?
have all the connection,
Right,
so
I
he
know.
met the link.
Yeah, I know he must be in Trinidad right now. Trinidad.
Celebrate.
Yeah, man. So,
Yeah, man. So yeah, him connect me to the people here and this and that, and then I said, yo, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah.
So why South Africa though? So is it where the biggest modeling or fashion market is in Africa?
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of the commercials that you see on TV, even in America, UK, all of them, they shot here.
Okay.
Like sometimes I'm watching TV and I look at the commercials and I laugh and say, oh, that's South Africa. And then I see people that I know.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm saying, oh, that's such and such. You know what I mean? So what they are, if you notice, you've been outside.
Right.
It's very similar looking to California.
Right.
Where you have the mountain, the sea, the this, that. So a lot of movies are shot here.
Right.
And a lot of TV commercials. And the reason being it's cheaper to shoot here. So all these production and clients come here to shoot.
Okay. All right. So you've worked in the local market. So were you signed with an agency?
Here. Yeah. In Johannesburg. I was signed to one in Johannesburg and then in Cape Town.
In Cape Town as well. So what are some of the brands that you've worn or you've basically worn their clothes or basically been contracted to? And what are some of these places that you'd have, done your work with some of these brands?
Converse.
Uh-huh.
Converse used to sponsor Levi's.
Right.
Levi's.
Right.
Hugo Boss.
Wow. That's
Hugo
impressive.
Boss. Yeah. And in terms of commercials, what I've done for the White, Chorus Light. Man, that's so I can't remember.
There's so many.
I have to read out something that I know.
Okay.
But yeah, Ford, the car company, Renault, which is a French car company. Yeah, a lot of alcohol, a lot of banking stuff. Yeah.
All right. So despite having worked for so many of these brands, you say, well, your heart wasn't really so much into modeling, but more so into music, right?
But my heart wasn't into the runway part of it. Okay. And in Jamaica, that's a big part of it. Right. You understand? The runway, all of that, that was the deterrence then, if you want to call it. Right. But here is mostly film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so that I enjoy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So is there much editorial work here?
There is, but I don't do them anymore. You don't. When you just got here, to kind of get your foot wet into the market to make clients see you. You know what I mean? Then you do that. But when you reach a certain point, you just, you know what I mean?
Okay, cool. All right. So we have both Saint and Pulse, who will regularly scout at the high schools in Jamaica and get some of the kids, right? Because I've been associated with both agency at some point or another, so I know that they would have their model search and they would get the kids, and they're excited to travel. They're excited to travel the world to do runway and all the different types of things. So since you've basically been there and done that, is there any word of advice that you'd like to give to these kids, who may not necessarily know what to expect, but they're being scouted and they know that they'll travel?
Yeah, get the education first. Get the education first. Because the thing is, with this industry, you might be here today and down here tomorrow. You understand? And you have to have some to fall back on. You know what I mean? But if it's something that you like and you're passionate about, go for it. You know what I mean?
All right, so you made the transition, or probably still making the transition from model to music. So let us now look at the musical journey.
Yeah.
So what genre of music are you currently in?
So all right, so and how the music, because I've always done music,
Right.
and how the music thing came about here is my booker and my agency. He knows this band, and he said, "Yo, it's a reggae band. Well, reggae predominantly, and they're from here. And you being Jamaican, I'm gonna introduce you to them." So I said, "All right, cool." So he connected me with them. They invited me to rehearsal, and I said, I mean, so what South Africans know about playing reggae music? Why am I even gonna go? You know what I mean? But anyway, long story short, went and I was blown away. I mean, we're talking about white boys playing reggae music. But the thing is, all of them are trained, musically trained. They went to music school, so they know keys, all of them things, the different notes, whatever. And then they played, and they had a show the weekend. This was a Wednesday, and they gave me the mic and said, "Sing something." So I started freestyle some things, and then them said, "Oh, good, we have a show Saturday. You're doing it."
Yeah,
I said, "What?"
So you got your big bus then.
and yeah, them just all right, cool, you know what I mean? And then from that, the rest is history, you know what I mean?
So what's the name of this band?
The Rudimentals. The Rudimentals, pretty big band here in South Africa. I mean, they've been around from 2001, them times, so even before I came. So I just basically came and added the authenticity as in being a Jamaican.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. So is this a band that's well traveled across Africa, outside of Africa, or
Yeah,
I mean in South Africa?
Yeah, all right. So the genre is predominantly reggae, but with a fusion of dancehall, hip hop, drum and bass, electronic kind of music. So that's the mixture. The members are from Italy, from South Africa, from the US, from Zimbabwe. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to know if they mainly play. Are they a house band, or do they travel across?
No, we travel. We play a lot of the big festivals across Southern Africa. You're talking about bushfires and all of them big festivals across Southern Africa. Jazz festival here as well.
Oh.
You know what I mean? We have played with Hugh Masekela.
Okay.
Yeah, Hugh Masekela and all of them. Yeah.
So do you do studio work? Does the band do any studio work? So do you have like any album or any single?
Yeah, we have a few albums. But some even before I came about. You know what I mean? Yeah, from back in the day.
Okay, so what's the most popular hit song or song that this band has made?
Soundboy Killer, that was one that went number one here. And we have another one called Bubbling that went number 2 on the chart. Yeah.
All right, so because we have persons who watch this channel from Jamaica, US, Canada, UK per se, they may never have heard of either song. So I'm just going to ask you just to give us a piece of Soundboy Killer then, all right? So all yours.
All right. Soundboy Killer. Well, we bust it up, it's like a thriller.
Not more just with cheese. We think I'm gonna get the first verse.
Alright, the first verse,
Yeah.
alright, cool. Sound boy killer, when they bust it up is like a thriller. Big tune selector, willer. Sound boy killer, when they bust it up is like a thriller. Big tune, and then the first verse now. Rudimental back in a the place with a 357 max shopping on my waist. Stand firm like a lion, not a rat in a the race. What do some little sound boy with them chatting and them tracing? 1 2 1 2 1 2 now jump on two, now got that fun to come when the class start it can't undo cause the bass and kick out with a brand new you.
Wicked, pop. Sound boy killer. That sound like a dub plate, man. That sound like it could be a dub plate back in the days.
No, it really, that song was written, it sound like that, but what it was really written, it was talking about the industry.
Right.
And then the music industry and these big labels and how they want to take away your sound, your originality, and create an image they envision you to be. You know what I mean? And so basically the song was about them being the sound boy killer. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right. So that was the journey from Jamaica straight into modeling and of course into music.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go out onto the streets because we want to get into the politics of it now, all right? Yeah, because I've come to South Africa and not only for the beauty of the country as a travel photographer, but also because South Africa is near and dear to Jamaicans.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you remember that when Mandela was released from prison in 1990, the next year, 1991,
he came to
Jamaica, and I think some other countries. So because Jamaica was near and dear to Mandela, because we were also involved in the struggle, the liberation fight to end apartheid.
Because I saw something the other day where it said Jamaica was the first country to place a trading embargo on South Africa apartheid government.
Exactly.
It was Michael Manley at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And then everybody followed suit after that.
Yes.
But yeah, Jamaica was the trendsetter.
Yeah, because during that time, the socialist countries were at the front of the struggle, and not so much the capitalist.
Cuba as well.
So Cuba as well was at the front of the struggle. Jamaica.
Funny little Western world, as in America and Europe, they called the black people here terrorists. They called the ANC, they called Mandela terrorists.
Exactly.
Basically, a man fighting to free his people was called a terrorist.
Right. All right. So, yeah, so we're going to go on the streets now and we're going to basically look at what South Africa, what Cape Town is like. We're going to go to some of the areas, per se, around Cape Town. We're going to look at what life is like here for the average, say, African, per se, and probably just go back into the history of it.
Yeah.
Because while I find that South Africa is a very developed country infrastructurally, I find that it's not so developed in terms of the different classes and the different races. South Africa is very good for the persons who once held the rule during the apartheid time, but it's not so good for the persons who were really the ones who were suffered under apartheid. So we're going to go on the streets and we're going to basically look. You're going to see what the physical infrastructure is like in South Africa.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to talk more about the politics and what life is like here in South Africa. So see you down the road.
From a class of sound boy, I figure run away. How with the people want hear, so no come there. We run me dance from Sunday to Sunday.
No boy can kill my sound. Sound boy killer. When we bust it up, it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willer. Sound boy killer. When we bust it up, it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willer. Sound boy.
We are in the iconic, historic Book Up here in Cape Town, formerly known as the Malay Quarters. You can see all the houses, all the colors, pretty colors and all of that. That's what it's known for, and a Muslim community. They were brought from East Asia and India back in the 1700s as slaves, to work here by the Dutch. And this is where they set up, and this is where they are now, and they still stay here. preserving culture and heritage and all that.
Okay, so let's take a walk up the road to see the brightly colored homes.
I jump one down, I got this one too. When they can't start it, yeah, and look at the bass and I kick out without run you.
Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, my sound a the baddest sound. No boy can kill my sound.
Somebody call it funeral home, cause I saw when I go dead tonight. Dead tonight. Only the champion sound stand alone, a sound boy, I go lose him life. Somebody call it funeral home, cause I saw when I go dead tonight. Dead tonight. Only the champion sound stand alone, a sound boy, I go lose him life.
My sound are the champion sound, international sound, killer local sound, original sound. This ain't no fake sound, bad man sound, that's a road boy sound. Which runs the town? It's not a clown sound, rudimental sound, killer tin can sound. I'm the best sound, that's official. They like my sound cause it's so special. Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, when we bust it up it's like a thriller. Big tune selector, willa. Soundboy killer, my sound are the baddest sound. No boy can kill my sound. Soundboy killer.
Royal.
Ilanga likhanya uma sekufika isikhathi salo njengolwandle njengamanzi kumele sibekezele kepha ingelula indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili.
Finally getting money. Little bro and sis depending on me. Almost every phone call requesting money. Papa no day, no work for mommy. No green card in a foreign land. If I cry now, nobody gon' understand. I hustle every day to overstand. I don't dey pray Oluwa Baba no go for my hand. Cause whatever goes up surely must come down. Ooh, and whatever goes around must come back around.
Yeah, so this is the City Hall building. This is where Mandela had his first speech when he came out of prison. When he left prison, he came straight here. And this is where he was standing, right by the statue where I'm standing. This is also the building that they use now, because that building there, the Assembly building, was burnt down. So this is what they use for the State of the Union address now. So yeah, this is where Mandela had his speech. And back there, out there by the parade, they had 50,000 people at the time, hearing what he was saying. And yeah, history. This happened February the 11th, 1990. So that's what, 35 years ago or something like that? Yeah.
In case you don't know, this is my testimony. I don't suffer when for the streets, but I'm finally getting money.
This is a cold world that we're living in. Despite the pressures we are faced, we're not giving in. I'm an hustler, a survivor. Some boy no want to see me rich, me realize I ain't farmer, a pre-man. Them a demon, them all we crush and write off like a Leland. But them can't wash away my dreams and a season. Me a stay focused, and me believe and mama don't worry, I'm gonna make it. Me see a money tree, me a go shake it. In these desperate times, man I face it. And it over kindly, if me a go take it. Come on a hustler, man I tug it in the streets, yeah. Hustler, can't food that we eat, I'm a money maker.
See this? So if you notice most niche perfumery, they have maison something like that. Maison something like that. So maison mean house of, yeah.
French,
House of, yeah. It's the house of Cravelli. That's basically what it translates to. So.
I said, in case you don't know, this is my testimony. Don't cry, I don't buy, but I'm finally getting money. No delay, where I done the pray. Blessings on the way, on the way. In case you don't know, this is my testimony.
La Parra.
Welcome back, viewers and subscribers. We're here at the beautiful V&A waterfront in Cape Town. The V is for Victoria and the A is for Alfred. I'm just going to do a quick little pan so that you can see, okay, what's happening here, how busy and how beautiful this place is.
Pan around.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to pick up on the conversation that we started to have earlier in the day. And this time now, we're going to talk about life in Cape Town and what life means for, I don't know if you want to call it, an immigrant that shares the same race as the dominant
Immigrant, well, African, back in Africa.
Yeah, well, as an African back in Africa. But
Yeah.
what is very obvious to us, though, is that while the black is the dominant in population, they're really not dominant in most of the spaces, economically,
Yeah.
and in most of the spaces that we are where we've been. It is clear that the black folks, they do most of the service-related jobs, okay, and the white folks, you have hardly come across a white folk who is probably the receptionist, the cashier, who does the road construction, and any one of those, like those jobs.
They're normally the overseers or the owners or the managers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, from your perspective, 34 years after apartheid ended, how do you see it living in South Africa for over 14 years? What's your perspective?
South Africa,
Mhm.
it has a long way to go. A long, long way. Yeah, it's still a new democracy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. You understand? 32% unemployment, one of the highest unemployment rate in the world. Yeah, so basically the money only stays one place and it's not redistributed, which if you want to grow a country and grow an economy, you have to redistribute the wealth, and that's not happening. So basically apartheid ended, as in physical apartheid, but economic apartheid is here now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So, that unequal distribution, how does it affect the type of jobs that you get, the gigs that you do, and do you feel as if you're marginalized, or do you feel as if you're still what they would call under the apartheid system and honorary white?
I mean, when it comes to like performances, shows that we do and all of that, we're in demand, so people pay premium to see us, you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, we're entertainers, so, you know what I mean, regardless, they'll pay to see us. In terms of modeling, when it comes to modeling, like TV commercials and all of that, yeah, some people get paid more than people who look like me. Okay. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? We know that for a fact. So, what can we do? They run the industry, they control everything. So,
Okay, all right, fair enough. So it's kind of hard to formulate the questions because it gets more emotional, and one doesn't control the platform, right? That these interviews are hosted on, and who controls the platform controls the power. Who controls the radio station controls the message. Who controls the TV station? Okay, controls the message.
That's what Malcolm X said. You know what I mean? The media is the most powerful entity in the world because they can make the guilty innocent and innocent guilty. You know what I mean? By pushing their narrative. So
yeah, that's correct. Now, all right. So as we look around, we can see vast amount of wealth, and we can see thousands of tourists just passing through V&A waterfront. I mean, so this place is still what they would call the most beautiful city in the world. Right? It gets thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, probably millions of tourists every year. Okay, so why then, alright, with being the number one city in the world, alright, and such a rich city because the infrastructure is so developed, does South Africa have such high unemployment rate?
that's a good question. For those who are lucky to be employed, they are paid peanuts, so they're still being exploited, even though they're, employed. They're still being exploited by these companies, people who run the businesses and all that. Because for them, they're trying to maximize profit. And the minimum wages here is lower than rent for a 2-bedroom house.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? For the most part. So therefore, if you live in a household, everybody has to chip in. Right. And we're talking about for black South Africans, on average. Black South Africans. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's something they need to think about. Another thing is the banks here, they don't lend that much to small businesses because South Africa banking system is one of the best in the world. It's ranked probably around 19 in the world, but yet still the lending rate is ranked 95. Wow. So you're 19, but you lend less. You know what I mean? So and the problem is a lot of the oligarchs here, they own the banks and they own the businesses. So therefore, to give a startup capital, eventually you will become competition, and we don't want that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Real estate.
Yeah.
So when we look toward probably like the Table Mountain, you see like a lot of houses on the hillside, and we know those cost a lot of money.
Yeah, millions of, yeah.
But when we go toward where the township are located, per se, we notice that the houses are very, very small. So
and zinc on board.
And zinc on board.
Yeah.
So my question, the poverty rate among whites, because I haven't really seen since I've been here any white person who looks poor.
You do have poor white people, but not that much. And they won't be in this area, you know what I mean? They'll be in certain places, villages, and all of that. But you do have a pocket of white poor people. Yeah.
So do those persons live in the township or
no? They wouldn't live in township where the black people live. They live in another informal settlement kind of vibe.
Okay, so even within township, there's a hierarchy there. So there's a different type of settlement for poor white versus black.
Yeah, and colored. Yeah.
And colors.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the country is still divided.
Right.
As much as they put this front that we're united, we're together. It is still very divided. And you see it every day. You know, all right, put it this way: if you have a staff party, right, in a company, everybody is together. As soon as everybody eating and the music start playing, the blacks go one side, white people go one side, colors go one side.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And that's because of
Segregation. It's
just automatic. You know your
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. What's the minimum wage here like?
Minimum wage. I'm not sure that they increased it the other day, and some companies weren't too happy. You know what I mean? They weren't too happy about that. But at the end of the day, you know, things are getting more expensive here, especially when I came here. The prices have doubled or tripled since I came here. You know what I mean? And they blame inflation, they say everything, but they don't want to pay higher wages. You know what I mean? So how will people survive? You know?
All right. So if you could talk to your parliamentary representative for the area that you live in, as someone who's from a country where the division is not as I would say sharp. We still have division back home.
Yeah, Jamaica is classist. It's classist. We know that. You know what I mean?
Right. But
while here it has to do with race.
Race,
you know?
right. So if you could talk to your political representative, and as a person who can see the issues that South Africa has from a different eye, from a different pair of eyes, I mean, what would you recommend to them as an outsider, probably, you know, in terms of your advice? Because sometimes you as an outsider can see.
Yeah. Because they are in it, they can't really see it. You know what I mean? Well, for me, you know, and they're always talking about growing the economy, but you can't grow an economy without the redistribution of the wealth. You understand? And that's where it needs to start. The wealth needs to be redistributed to people who don't have it. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's simple as that.
Are you talking about giving them handouts, or what type of redistribution you think?
No, as in more when it comes to the investment, you know what I mean? More investment that will garner a workforce to work. You understand? Provide employment for people and all that. You know?
What about the education system per se for the black youth? Would you say, do you know if there are sufficient, say, high school, secondary school, or what of the dropout rate, etc., etc.?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have like high truancy in the system?
Well, the education system, especially when it comes to high school or we call it now primary school education for black people, that is. They really need to do better than that. What they're doing, because I think the pass mark, if I'm not, the pass mark is about, is it 40 or 45 or something like that. So it's less than 50%.
Right.
You understand? The pass mark here. So basically, you can pass a test not knowing half of the topic. You understand? And for one, they need to higher the pass mark. You understand? And I mean, you have people here who don't have bench or desk to sit on or sit around. You know what I mean? They sit on blocks and all that. The government needs to do way better in that regard. You know?
Okay, so let me see now. You know, in Jamaica, in our system, sports is a big thing among the youth, especially athletics. So a kid who doesn't do well academically usually would probably be like a good athlete per se. Is athletics a big avenue for the average kid, especially like a black kid, or sport? You know, how much of an avenue is sport for the average black kid who probably find it difficult to move out of their society, their situation?
Yeah, well, when it comes to athletics, it hasn't really catch on yet like that. You know what I mean? But it's getting better. They're producing a few good athletes. You know what I mean? Like that dude from the high school, the 16-year-old guy.
Right.
And Sam Beanie, the 100-meter runner.
Right.
So they're getting better and they're getting their shine.
Right.
But still, in terms of private sector funding, it's not quite there yet. Most of the money will go to the rugby team.
Right.
Because, of course, they're world champions. They do well in rugby. You know what I mean? And the cricket team.
And the cricket team.
Football is predominantly black sport.
Right.
So most black kids will play football. You understand? Grassroots, that's where it starts. But in most of the high schools here, it's rugby and cricket.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if you're good at rugby or cricket, then you can catapult yourself straight into, you know what I mean? Being a superstar kind of vibe here.
Alrighty. So, in closing, we have said much today. We have covered much from your early days in Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's going through the school system, going to New York, going to the US, going back to Jamaica, and then coming here per se.
Yeah.
What would you like to tell the Jamaican kid growing up in Jamaica about living abroad, your experiences in a per se, and they may be, especially if they're thinking the same, what would be your advice? Because many of us in Jamaica are what we call foreign-minded.
Yeah.
Per se. So based on your experience, what would you advise them to do in closing?
For me, I mean, South Africa, you've been here, you see,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's comfortable, it's depending on where you go, it's safe, it's peaceful, you know what I mean? I live a comfortable life. But what I will tell them is, explore the world. The world is not America, Canada, and the UK.
Right.
There are many other places out there that will probably suit you and what you want in life. You understand? So just explore the world, man. See the world. You know what I mean? Yeah, just go out there and look for it.
Alright. So respect, Marlon.
Yeah, man.
Cool. By the way, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You still remember the national anthem of Jamaica?
Yeah, of course. You know what? Funnily, I listen to Zip FM every day.
Right.
You understand? And Alexa, so normally I'll just play Zip FM. And my little daughter, she knows the national anthem because it plays, I think it plays every morning at 6.
Yes.
That side, which is 1 o'clock here.
Right.
Yeah, so every time it plays, she eventually learns it.
Okay.
So she sings it. So, yeah, we know the national anthem.
So she knows it. Give me the first few lines of the national anthem. May I test you? Let me see if you still have it.
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil power. Be our light through countless hours.
All right. You still have it. Respect, Marlon. Right.
Yeah,
Guidance.
man.
Cool.
From a class of sound boy I figure run away. How with the people want hear, so no come there. We run me dance from Sunday to Sunday.
No boy can kill my sound boy killer.